بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue our study of the points, introductory points about knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which Ayat Misbah has mentioned at the beginning of this discussion about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first point was about two types of ma'rifah. Ma'rifah which is general, ma'rifah which is personal, is detailed, is about Allah in a particular way. Now, the second point is that the terms which are used for God in different languages, sometimes they are what we call proper nouns, alam shakhsi, ism khas, proper nouns for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that they cannot be used for anything else and anyone else. They can only be applied to Him. Sometimes maybe there is a term that can be used also for others, but we apply it to God. For example, Lord or Rabb is something that can be used for God and also for others. From the context, from the evidence which is there, we can understand. In English, we have God, which is used only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if it is with capital G. In Farsi, we have Khuda. In Arabic, we have Allah or Ar-Rahman. Interestingly, in the Arabic Bible, they use Allah. Some people think Allah is only for Muslims, but even in Arabic Bible, Allah is used. Allah is the name of God in Arabic. And then we have general ones like Rabb, like Ilah, like Khaliq. Even Rahim can be used for God and others. They can be used in plural form. For Rabb, we can say Arbab, Ilah, Aliha, Khaliq, Fatabarakallah, Ahsanul Khaliqin. Khaliqin is plural. Rahim, we have Ruhama Bainahum. So these are the things that can be used for God and can be used for others as well. Point 3. Proper nouns which are used for God or anything. Sometimes right from the beginning they are designated for this particular case. For example, someone has called his child with this name. From beginning, this is the name of this child. Sometimes there was a general name and then they have designated them to a specific case. For example, maybe at the beginning, Ilah, which was general, with Alif and Lam was applied to God. Al-Ilah. But little by little, this was designated to God only, and they made it Allah. They made it shorter, and they said Allah, which now we don't need to go back to what it used to mean and be. The meaning of Allah is now this personal God. Ayat Misbah says we shouldn't, now that this term has been designated as a proper noun for God, try to find out what was the root of this term and etc. There is no harm in this. Sometimes maybe something useful we can find, but when it is used for God as a person, then it means God. It refers to Him. For example, if they say this city is Medina. Okay. Initially, Medina was called Madinatun Nabi, city of the Prophet, and Alif and Lam was used to refer to a specific case. Little by little, when we say Al-Madinah, we understand that city. Now we don't need to talk that much about what is the root of this term, and this mim dal noon, what does it mean, and with alif lam, etc. Now Al-Madinah is the name of, like Mecca has a name, Medina has a name. We cannot learn that much from it. Even, for example, when we say Allah is the name for Allah, sometimes you read in the books, they say Allah is a name for Zatun mustajmi'un li jami' sifat al-kamal, the essence which has all the qualities of perfection. Ayat Misbah says this is not a kind of definition. Just they want to say that this is the name for God. In Arabic, they cannot say this is name for God because God is in English, for example, Khuda. So they say Ismun Lizat and Tajma'u Jami'a Sifat al-Kamal. So he says, Pas pژوهش درباره ماده و هیئت این کلمه نمیتواند به فهمیدن معنای آن به عنوان علم شخصی کمک بکنه. So to do research about what was the matter or the cast of this word, the roots and the cast of this word, cannot help us in understanding the meaning of something which has become a proper noun. Number 4, point 4. In Farsi, we say Khuda. Some people say maybe Khuda is the shorter version of Khud'a, which means something that comes by itself, means self-existent, which means wajibul wujud. Some people have said this. But Ayat Misbah says, in Farsi we have also Kat Khuda, Khudawand, which suggests that meaning of Khuda is not wajibul wujud or something that comes by himself to existence. It's more a matter of sahib, malik, owner. Khuda means owner. So we understand that now we mean this particular owner, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says in the Quran, the most common terms for God are Ilah and Rabb. Ilah and Rabb. Not, for example, Khaliq. Although Khaliq is used, but it's not as popular and common like Ilah and Rabb. Therefore, in La ilaha illallah, we don't say La khaliqa illallah. We say La ilaha illallah. Ilahukum ilahun wahid. Not khaliqukum ilahun wahid. And for Rabb, we have many cases like Rabbukum wa Rabbu abaikumul awwalin. Therefore, let us talk about these two very popular terms, Ilah and Rabb. Ilah is fi'al. Fi'al sometimes is used as ism maf'ul. The meaning is like ism maf'ul, is the object. So Ilah means ma'luh, like kitab means maktub. Ma'luh means ma'bud, what is worshipped. Kitab, maktub, what is written. But when we say La ilaha illallah, we don't want to say no one is ever worshipped except God. Although from a mystical point of view, people like Ibn Arabi and others say no one has ever been worshipped or loved except God. But that's another view. That means even people who worship idols unconsciously they are worshipping God unknowingly, because they are after perfection, absolute perfection. They mistakenly think that this idol is God, but they want to worship God. That's another perspective. What is true here, from this perspective, is that are there people or objects which are worshipped other than God? Are there false gods? Yes. So what does it mean, La ilaha illallah, La ma'buda illallah? Means La true ma'buda, La true ilah illallah. Then you may say, how did you bring this? Ayat Misbah says, because sometimes in Arabic, ism maf'ul means what is qualified for something. So kitab can be something which is written, or something min sha'nihi, something that can be written even if it is not yet written. Or Qur'an means something that can be read and recited. Ilah means something that can be worshipped, something is suitable, qualified for being worshipped. In this sense, it's only one person, Allah, who can be worshipped. So if you want to say La ilaha illallah means no one has ever been worshipped other than God, then what do you do with idols? Unless you use that Irfani approach. Idols are also worshipped. People worship idols, people worship cow, etc. So when we say La ilaha illallah means La ilaha in the sense that something that can be and should be, is qualified for being worshipped. Illallah. Then you may say, if there is only one ilah, why in the Quran sometimes it is used for false ilah? For example, in Surah Taha, verse 97, ilahaka, or alihataka. Surah A'raf, verse 127, alihataka. The answer is, it's according to their opinion. Ilah is something that can be worshipped. They may think those things can be worshipped. So they may have false ilah. Although ilah has to be true ma'bud, but they mistakenly think that these are true ma'bud. So this is the reason that it can be also used in plural form or for false gods. But doesn't mean that we accept them as real ma'bud or as, someone that should be worshipped, but this is happening. What about Rab? Rab is different from Rabaya. It is Rababa, not Rabaya. We have Tarbiyah, Murabbi, and although maybe there is ishtiqaq kabir, not a standard ishtiqaq, but sometimes there's ishtiqaq kabir that maybe two letters are the same, that's a technical discussion. But on the first level, you see that these are two different things. Rab and Rabaya are different. Murabbi is the one who educates, nourishes. But Rab means the one who has control over something and runs it and manages it. You can say Lord. When we have things in Arabic like Rabbul Ibil, Rabbatud Dar, for example, for a lady who is managing her house, men normally do things outside, and this lady is Rabbatud Dar. She's in charge of the issues inside home. Or Rabbul Ibil, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib said, Ana Rabbul Ibil, Waril Bayt Rabbun to Abraham. He said, Rabna Rabbul Ibil means I'm in charge of camels. I'm responsible for them. I'm in charge of them. I can make decisions about them. I don't need to get permission. This is the meaning of Rabb. So when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rabb, what does it mean? it means that he is the only one that independently can decide about things. He doesn't need to get permission from anyone. He can decide, he can run them, manage them, and sustain them. And if you consider these two carefully, Ilah and Rabb, you see there is a relation between them. Who can be our true Ilah, true Ma'bud? Someone who is our Rabb. I cannot, have Rabb and then leave him and worship someone else. Or I cannot have Rabb and say, I don't want to worship anyone. Automatically, naturally, and inshallah we'll say by fitrah, we want to show our humbleness to someone who has been very, very generous and kind and has become our beloved. So after this, Ayatollah Misbah starts with intellectual argument for existence of God in the Quran. So the first thing is, do we have any intellectual, rational argument for God? Any proof for God in the Quran? Some people, some mufassirin, some commentators of the Quran, like Fakhr al-Razi, who himself is a mutakallim, he and some people try to bring lots of verses of the Quran, almost every verse which is about ayat takwini, about Allah's signs in the creation. They try to bring these verses and say these are all arguments for existence of God. So they try to develop it as a kind of burhan and nazm, argument from design. Some people said in the Quran we don't have any ayah in which there is argument for existence of God. So they have gone to the other extreme. Some people have brought every ayah about creation as a sign. They say it's an argument, and some say there's no argument for existence of God because Quran has focused on Tawheed and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayatollah Misbah says, if you want to judge fairly, it takes time to bring all these cases and verses that the first group have quoted, etc. But for sure, we can say this kind of minimalistic answer, that Quran, although may not often or very much, many times, argued for existence of God and has taken it to be something clear and self-evident, or something that it was not questioned in the time of the revelation of the Quran. The pagans didn't deny existence of God for any reason. So Quran maybe does not that much talk about this, but it's not that Quran has no mention of this or no way of offering arguments. Maybe some of the verses of the Quran that talk about unity of God at the same time prove existence of God. Or maybe sometimes a debate between pagans and the Prophet, and the verse is supporting prophethood of the Prophet, but also is talking about the existence of God. For example, in Surah Tur, verse 35, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون. Are they created from nothing, or by nothing, or for nothing? أم هم الخالقون. There are three possibilities. من شيء, من غير شيء. One is to say that it refers to the material from which something is created, madda. Another is it refers to the purpose, ghaya. Ayatollah Misbah says these two are not very likely. So the third is better, which means, are they created by any khaliq, any creator, or they have to accept one of the two options. Are they created without creator? How can we have creature without creator? It's not possible. Have they created themselves? This is also not possible. So they cannot be creator. They cannot be created without creator. So we need a creator for them, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون. And from the context you can understand that من غير شيء is about a creator, not about the material or purpose. The focus is creator. Do they have creator? Or they have created themselves? Or they have no creator? There are three options. Two of them are not acceptable, so only remains that they are created. So the creator is God. So this is a very good argument. Something that we have to remember is that intellectual arguments, whether developed by philosophers or theologians or mentioned in the Qur'an, these arguments, intellectual arguments, they use concepts. These are kulli. This is ilm husuli. So if you prove that there is prime mover, muharrak awwal, or there is wajibul wujud, or there is a designer, or there is a khaliq, etc., all are kulli, because ilm husuli. There is a being which is wajibul wujud. What we need, and the Quran and Irfan all try to build in us, is something more personal. We don't want to say there is a God. We want to make personal relation with him, and this is possible through ilm huduri. Is there any place in the Quran that Quran refers to ilm huduri, knowledge by presence, or ma'rifat al-shuhudi, intuitive knowledge of God? Or the Quran only talks about ilm husuli of God through concepts? Ayat Misbah says the answer for this can be taken from the verse of fitrah and the verse of mithaq. So فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم. Or وإذ أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ظهورهم ذريتهم وأشهدهم على أنفسهم قال ألست بربكم قالوا بلى. So from these two verses we can argue that the Quran also introduces to us معرفة الشخصي والشهودي, personal and intuitive معرفة of Allah, awareness of Allah or knowledge of Allah. But before that we need to talk about خداشناسی فطری, innate knowledge of God. So we need to talk about fitrah, and we need to talk about two dimensions of fitrah. Fitrah as a matter of understanding, fitrah as a matter of inclinations, binish and girayish. Binish is understanding, vision. Girayish is inclination and desire. We have khuda shanasi and khuda ju'i. Knowing God is fitri. Yearning for God and seeking God is also fitri. Inshallah, we leave these discussions for the next week, bi'iznillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.